प्रियंका जारकिहोली जी,
परंतु
प्रियंका जी।
Thank you, Speaker sir. I stand before you to voice a profound concern regarding the proposed delimitation bill 2026. While the periodic redrawing of electoral boundaries is a constitutional mandate intended to ensure one person, one vote, we must ask ourselves at what cost to the unity and federal fabric of our great nation this specific exercise comes. Sir, I would like to suggest few points. The penalty for the progress. The primary argument against the current framework of delimitation is that inadvertently penalizes the states that have successfully implemented the national goals. For decades, several states, particularly in the south, have stabilized their population growth through rigorous family planning, education and health reforms. If we base the allocation of seats strictly on the previous census, these states stand to lose a significant parliamentary representation. So in essence, we would be telling these states that the reward for socio-economic progress is diminished voice in the highest temple of democracy. So the second one is a threat to the federal equilibrium. Our union is a delicate balance of diverse linguistic and cultural identities. The strength of the Indian federalism lies in the fact that no single region can dominate the national narrative. The political marginalization, a shift in the number of seats towards the high population states could lead to a permanent political imbalance. Policy bias. The central government might naturally prioritize the needs and sentiments of the regions with higher seat counts, but leaving the performing states feeling like mere spectators in their own country. So another issue is the economic contribution of the political power. There is an undeniable economic dimension to this debate. The states are likely to lose relative representation are often the ones who contribute disproportionate share to the national GDP and the central tax pool. To reduce their political legislative power while continuing to rely on the economic output creates a sense of taxation without proportionate representation. This is the recipe for a regional friction that our internal security and national harmony cannot afford. There is a need for a new formula, sir. We are not arguing against the Constitution, but we are arguing against for its spirit. The 84th Amendment Act of 2001 froze the seat allocation based on 1971 census precisely to avoid this conflict. But before we move on to the new bill, we must redefine the representation. Explore the models where seat increases do not result in the loss of relative strength for performing states. Strengthen the Rajya Sabha seats, considering power of the upper house to act as a more robust safeguard for the safe interest. And the build consensus, a change of this magnitude requires a great compromise, not a single legislative push. Sir, I would like to, regarding the women's bill, I would like to take a moment of the history back to the 13th century. With great pride, I would like to say that Basavannaji in the 13th century, he made a parliament like Anubhav Mantapa, where women were included and given their voice. So it takes immense pride that today this bill has come into effect, but only women's bill need to be implemented right now and not later. So I would like to conclude that democracy is not just a number game. It is a system of equity. So few more, I'll wind up, sir. If we pass the bill without addressing the deep-seated fears of regional marginalization, we risk transforming union of states into majoritarian rule of regions. So let us not rush into exercise that could alienate millions of citizens who have done exactly when the nation asked them: empower their women, educate their children, and stabilize their population. So I urge this House to defer the bill until a formula that honors both population equity and federal fairness. Thank you, sir.